For £9 an hour, Shaun stood behind a restaurant in London washing dishes late into the night, scraping grease from trays and scrubbing pans long after the customers were gone. It was not the job he applied for. It was not the job most British applicants wanted. He was an immigrant, not illegal, not unskilled, just placed at the back. Cold water clung to his skin. His clothes never fully dried before the next shift. Every night he walked home aching, smelling of detergent and fryer oil. Every night he wondered if this was all life had planned for him. Some nights he sat alone in the tiny kitchen of the one-bedroom flat he shared with his wife, staring in silence at his burned hands and wondering how a man who once fed entire streets back home had somehow become invisible in a country he had crossed oceans to reach in search of greater prosperity. Then one evening, everything shifted. The grill chef did not show up. The kitchen tightened with panic. The head chef scanned the room and his eyes landed on Shaun. "Do you know how to run the grill?" Shaun felt his chest lock. Back in Jamaica, he ran a jerk stand with pride. Arriving in England, he applied for a job on the grill. Instead, he was handed a sponge. They never even gave him the chance to cook. The moment they heard his accent, checked his documents and saw the color of his skin, his place in that kitchen had already been decided for him. Shaun knew opportunity rarely knocks twice. "Yes," he said. Relief crossed the chef's face. "Please don't let me down." Every chef in the kitchen looked at him differently now, not with confidence, with doubt, like they were waiting to see him fail. Shaun walked to the pantry. Thyme, garlic, parsley, spring onion, paprika, dried chili flakes, safe spices. Nothing from home. His hands moved anyway, remembering what England had almost forced him to forget. He blended the ingredients until the color darkened and the scent rose. No scales, no recipes, only instinct. Chicken and steak bathed in the marinade while the grill heated. When the first flare of charcoal rose, something inside him woke up. For hours, he lived inside the fire. He controlled the coals like breath. He shifted heat zones. He turned meat at the exact second it needed turning. Fat hit metal and sang. Smoke wrapped around him like it knew his name. For the first time since arriving in England, Shaun no longer felt like a dishwasher pretending to survive. He felt like himself again. Each plate left the past deliberate, tender, juicy, fragrant with char and spice, not cooked, crafted. The head chef cut into the chicken breast, expecting it to be dry and overcooked. Then he froze after the first bite. It was unbelievably juicy, deeply flavorful, and cooked with near-perfect precision. "Where did you learn to control moisture and flavor in chicken like this?" he asked quietly between bites. "My grandmother taught me," Shaun said quietly. Back home, feeding people properly meant feeding them with pride. The next morning, the restaurant's social media exploded. 5-star reviews stacked up. Customers praised the smoke, the heat, the depth. Some asked if chefs had changed. Shaun walked to work lighter than he had since arriving in England. In his bag were pimento berries, ginger, Scotch bonnet peppers, and a small jar of ground spices and dried herbs, a family secret handed down by his grandmother. This evening, he would make it even better. This evening, it would taste like home. But like every other evening, the kitchen had already decided where he belonged. The head chef barely looked at him. "Hurry up, get the dishes and cutlery ready for service." The grill chef was back. Shaun returned to the sink. Shaun said nothing, but disappointment sat heavier than the steam rising around him. That evening, the restaurant was fully booked. A well-known food critic sat near the window. Plates left the pass perfect in appearance. Balanced, precise. Then customers inhaled. Those who had dined the night before paused. Something was missing. No deep smoke rising through the room. No sweetness from caramelized marinade. No flavor lingered on the tongue. They tasted, Ordinary. Phones appeared before bills were printed. Reviews rolled in. People asked the same question again and again. What changed since yesterday? Some customers even uploaded side-by-side photos comparing both nights, trying to understand how the same restaurant's food could suddenly taste so bland overnight. In the kitchen, Shaun stood at the sink, sleeves wet to the elbows, stacking plates in careful silence while notifications piled up in the office. They did not stop. The manager read each one, his teeth clenching. Praise from Thursday drowned beneath disappointment from Friday. He stepped into the kitchen and handed the phone to the head chef. What happened to the flavor? Different chef? We came back because of yesterday, and it was not the same. Who cooked the meat on Thursday? The head chef said nothing. He knew. He watched the grill chef working. The technique was precise, the timing exact, every plate identical. But there was no soul in it. He turned. At the back, Shaun stood in a cloud of steam, hands moving through soapy water. He did not look up. For a moment, the chef waited. Pans clattered. Orders were called. The extractor hummed overhead. Then he walked over. Shaun? Shaun turned, hands still submerged. Yes, chef. The chef hesitated. Pride is heavy when swallowed in front of a brigade. What did you do to the meat last night? I marinated it. The chef shook his head slowly. No, he said quietly. What cooking method did you use to balance the flavor and texture so precisely? Shaun lifted his hands from the sink and dried them slowly on a towel. Jerk. The words settled between them. The chef glanced at the grill station, then back at Shaun. Tomorrow, he said quietly. You're on the grill. Shaun nodded once. His expression did not change. The next evening, the smoke changed. Charcoal breathed under Shaun's control, chicken blistered and caramelized. Steak rested properly. Spice hung in the air like memory. It did not smell like technique. It smelled like home. A customer cut into his steak and closed his eyes. This is what we came back for. The head chef stood beside Shaun, not above him. For the first time, he looked at him like an equal. Months passed. The grill station belonged to Shaun. Bookings filled weeks in advance. Customers came back for the flavor, the smoke, the heat that lingered after each bite. The restaurant depended on him. One night after service, Shaun spoke calmly. I want a raise. I think I've earned it. The head chef agreed. The manager agreed. They would speak to the owner. The owner came the next day. He laughed, not warm laughter, not surprised laughter, dismissive laughter. Who does he think he is? The owner scoffed loudly. You give people like him a little praise, and suddenly they start thinking they're bigger than the business itself. First, it's a raise. Next, he'll be asking for equity. The words carried across stainless steel in open flame. Shaun kept turning the chicken. For the first time since arriving in England, he understood his place in that building clearly. It was not at the sink. It was not even at the grill. It was somewhere else. That night, he packed his knives, his spices, his small tin of pimento he never left behind. He quit. That night, he walked home carrying his knives in a supermarket bag because he could not even afford proper luggage yet. With his last £750, he bought a jerk pan. A week later, smoke drifted through a small street near a market in Brixton. It rose from an oil drum beneath a blue canopy. No sign, just a handwritten board. Yard-style jerk. Plates were £10. At first, silence. Then one car pulled up, then another, then a line. People stood in the cold, balancing steaming plastic containers in their hands, because once they tasted it, they did not care about the rain, traffic, or how long the queue became. The smoke traveled through Brixton like a signal people had been waiting for. Something real was happening here. The canopy became a trailer. The trailer became a permanent spot. The spot became 3 locations: laughter, music, heat, the smell of victory disguised as jerk. He never chased investors, never took loans. Every pound sterling went back into the fire. Today, the man who once scrubbed grease traps runs a business generating £3 million a year. Meanwhile, the restaurant owner who once laughed at Shaun kept telling customers the same thing. Shaun was on holiday. Deep down, he believed Shaun would eventually return humbled and begging for his job back. But as the weeks passed, the complaints began growing louder. Where's the flavor? Why does the food taste different? When are you bringing back the chef who used to cook here? Reviews slipped, regulars stopped returning, bookings thinned, hours were cut. The owner tried hiring new chefs, tried changing suppliers, tried advertising discounts online. But customers were never truly paying for decor or presentation. They were paying for Shaun's hands without ever realizing it. Months later, a notice appeared on the door. Closed. Shaun's grills still burn late into the night. Smoke still rolls through Brixton like a memory that refuses to disappear. Because this story was never only about food. It was about dignity, about talent being ignored until success makes people pay attention, about the danger of underestimating people simply because of their accent or the color of their skin. Shaun did not inherit wealth. He did not receive favors. He built his future with burned hands, charcoal smoke, sleepless nights, and the one thing nobody in that kitchen recognized soon enough: his worth. One plate at a time. If you enjoyed this story, don't just like, subscribe, and comment. Share it. That's how Word, Sound, and Story by Troy Mackenzie reaches further and grows stronger. I appreciate your support.